So as I make this video, it is a Saturday morning, and yesterday I got up and went for my normal walk and had a few more interesting conversations with a few different people. But as I had talked about in my previous videos, I had found out earlier this week that my job was eliminated. And so I have 90 days to figure out what is my next job that I'm going to take, if I'm going to continue to work for my company. And that is actually not terrible news at all. I'm sure is terrible news for some people, but it's not bad news for me because I was really feeling like I needed a change in my life, and I was already planning to relocate one way or another to Bentonville, Arkansas, where Walmart headquarters is. That is my company. And then kind of see what kind of jobs there are down there that I can potentially take. Or maybe, if the path is not aligned with that, I could even leave the company and find something else to do entirely. So all of that being said, I had this on my mind, and then suddenly, to my surprise, the company also just says, your role is now going to be sunset and you will be displaced. Everyone in your role will be displaced, and you're going to have to, figure out what comes next. Only now, instead of having to take a huge leap of faith, it's a little bit of a smaller leap of faith because I'm paid as a displaced associate to go out and figure out, what my next thing is going to be. So I've been going through all of that. And during all of this, I thought to myself, let me think about people I maybe haven't talked to for a little while, and let me see, see if maybe I can have some conversations with folks who I haven't been in touch with. And I called my friend Kenneth, and I haven't talked to him for quite some time. Actually, to be honest, I didn't talk to him at all, and I didn't think about him at all for quite a while. Like, we were friends, and we've worked together before. And he is one of those kind of people where I can just talk to him casually, and we just banter about whatever comes to mind. And once we do start talking, even if we haven't talked for a really long time, it's almost like there's no time that has really passed. Like, we'll just be talking about stuff, and a few minutes turns into a few hours, and before you know it, the afternoon has gone by, and we're still just BSing about whatever might have come up. And I think that is pretty cool. But anyway, I gave him a call, and we were talking, and then, through the course of conversation, while we were just talking about random stuff, he talked about this other guy that we used to work with named Tim. And again, I used to kind of occasionally hang out with Tim too. Not that we were really super close friends or anything, but I did hang out, and we would go, occasionally go hike up the hill on the side of town or something like that. Anyways, Tim had already relocated to Northwest Arkansas a few, 2 years ago now. And then we realized during this conversation, he had been somebody who had told both of us, hey, if you ever want to come out to Northwest Arkansas and work in the home office, why don't you let me know, because that's where I'm going. So, talking to Kenneth, my friend, who's, he lives in, I don't know, New Mexico or something now, but he's kind of been, on his ass. He just has I call him up and I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm selling golf carts at this store. I'm like, okay, selling golf carts, that's, you know, sounds a little bit like kind of a dead end job there. You know, I mean, I don't know that that's really what he wanted to do. It's more like just something he found. But ever since he had left our company, it's been hard for him to find something that wound up being as satisfying, I guess, or as financially good from a compensation perspective. Anyway, so like if I wouldn't have called Ken, long story, I wouldn't have talked to Tim or thought about Tim, because, you know, I hadn't thought about either of these guys. If I wouldn't have gone through this whole thing of being displaced in my job, I probably wouldn't have had any of these conversations, because I wouldn't have thought about any of these guys, right? And so then I got off the phone, and later on I was thinking, you know, why don't I call Tim? Let me see if his number is still active. Let me see what he's doing. So I call Tim, and phone rings a couple times, and he picks right up, and he's like, hey, how's it going? You know, so glad you reached out. And so we were talking, and it wound up being, you know, great, you know, because now, you know, it's another friend to have, a point of contact that's already on the inside when I get down there to Northwest Arkansas. And so whenever I do arrive in town, I will reach out to Tim, and he'll be somebody who I'll, you know, go have lunch with or hang out with or something. And maybe he has contacts or ideas of things that I may want to apply for. Totally possible. Or if not, it's, you know, at the very minimum, it's a friend to have in town. So I'm not just rolling into a completely new place as a complete stranger. And that's really welcome too. And then as I was talking to Tim in Arkansas, I brought up my other friend, Ken, the guy working at the golf cart store, and I was like, you know, and I just for the heck of it, it sounds like Ken would kind of like to maybe relocate to Northwest Arkansas too, if you happen to know of something that you could recommend for him. And, you know, Tim is like, you know what, that I might, you know, let's think about it some more. So now we have kind of that conversation maybe happening too at some point when everyone's settled in and everything. And I thought, you know, wouldn't that be crazy, right? Like I find out that a job that I had is going to go away, and that prompts me to call an old friend who I haven't talked to for a couple of years. And talking to that old friend who I haven't talked to for a couple of years winds up reminding me of another old friend I haven't talked to for a couple of years. And then it creates an opportunity for connections, and maybe it winds up leading to a situation where not just me, but maybe somebody else who isn't me winds up rekindling old connections, and maybe it helps somebody else's career, somebody else's job. It leads to other people maybe relocating to other areas to find new work or something like that. And these are just, you know, it's kind of those synchronicities of the universe where you're just going about your business, you're doing your thing. But when you look at all of the stuff that happens as a result of one particular event, it's very interesting how you can have one thing lead to another, and that would have never happened if the first thing hadn't happened. And they seem like they're completely unrelated, but they're also important events in people's lives that happen just because the dominoes were kind of set in motion. And I think that all of that is a cause for having more faith and, you know, really just believing that all things work together for good. You know, don't ever have that attitude that because something appears to be bad news, it is. And always have faith that potentially, even though it might not seem like good news in the moment, it totally can lead to good news right around the corner. There is a story that is told, I love it, and it's this guy, and he has a horse that runs away, and then his neighbors say, well, that's unfortunate, and he's like, maybe. And then the horse comes back with wild horse that it has found, and it came back with a friend. So now he has multiple horses instead of just one, and his neighbors again say, wow, that's really lucky. And he's like, maybe. And then his son goes out to tame this new wild horse that has appeared, and the wild horse throws his kid off and breaks his leg. And the neighbors all say, wow, that's a terrible, unfortunate thing. And the farmer says, well, maybe. Then the next day, the soldiers come, and they're conscripting young men to go to war. But they don't take his son because his son has an injured leg because he had just got thrown off the horse. And so now suddenly the horse throwing him off winds up also being a blessing, not a misfortune after all. And that story, I believe, is in Buddhist teachings, something of that nature. But it's an interesting thing, though, how you have the butterfly effect where, like small things can lead to big things. It's said that for want of a nail, a horseshoe was lost, and for want of a horseshoe, a horse was lost, and for want of a horse, a battle, a horseman, a rider was lost, and for want of a rider, a battle was lost. And so in the end, for the want of that battle, a war was lost, and for want of a war, a kingdom was lost. And so it came to pass that a kingdom was lost for want of a nail. And in life, there are many butterfly effect moments where, the flapping of a butterfly's wings can cause a storm on the other side of the world. And we don't ever have the ability to comprehend just how much of a difference things can make for better or for worse. So don't ever look at anything in life and say, well, that's a blessing or that's a curse, because you just don't know what it is until you see the end result. And then, of course, there's the whole thing about just I guess just having faith in general, right? But it's exciting, though, to see how some of these weird events just kind of happen and how conversations happen. I've also been kind of thinking about, like, who is your true friends and who cares, right? Because I've been reaching out to different people, just kind of shooting people text messages or picking up the phone and calling people and saying, hey, I'm going to be moving out of the area here in a couple of weeks, and would totally love to swing up your way, and we can go do something. We can hang out, whatever it may be. Some of these are usually people who I have had a good relationship with, but it's usually been a work relationship. Now it's not really a work relationship anymore because I'm leaving, right? So there's no longer any thing where somebody's going to be like, well, I want to stay in touch because I think I'm going to have an inroad or something like that, right? I mean, yeah, who knows? Maybe I could help somebody down the road because I'll go be closer to the pulse of a Walmart home office, and you build connections and stuff as the years pass, totally. But right now, I don't have any leverage that is useful to anybody, really. So there's no reason why old business contacts would need to stay in touch with me. If they want to, they totally can. And that's where, I just kind of think that this is a great opportunity to show, like, who's a friend and who isn't, who cares just because they care about you as a human being, and who doesn't really care because even though they acted like they cared about you, the only reason they were really staying in touch is because they thought they were going to possibly need to get something from you in the future. And if those are the kinds of people you have in your life, then you really don't have anything to lose by getting rid of them. You know, I'm not saying that they're bad people. It's just, you don't need people who are mercenary in the sense that they're going to be there when they think they're going to get something, and then they're going to vanish when they don't see a profit motive there anymore. And that's something you really just don't know until you do the proof of the pudding, and you just lay it out there and you give other people the chance to have the ball in their court. Like, are you going to put an effort into staying in touch? Are you going to try to be there to keep those relationships alive, or are you going to just vanish into the woodwork? And if you vanish, then that's useful to me because it just frees up, my contact list so I can focus on quality relationships. And if it's something where somebody does care, sometimes you wind up finding out that people care more than you thought they did. Like I got a call a couple days ago from someone who I do like and appreciate. One of my counterparts who, she's great, been with the company, I think, for 30 years and was one of those people who was displaced. And I don't talk to her very much. I think I saw her back in January. So now you're talking a good 6 months ago, at least, that it had been since I had seen her. But I'm just going about my business, making my morning coffee, and the phone rings, and then it's her there just calling to, check in and see how things are going. And then that's a couple hours of talking. And as I make my way now down to Arkansas, once I'll load up the U-Haul and pull my car and all that stuff behind it and make my way down there, but I'll stop in Spearfish, South Dakota, to explore a little bit of South Dakota, which I've never seen, and say hi to her. So, out of all of this, that's a great example of, a friend that I may have created that was somebody who I didn't even view as a friend or necessarily see as, on my radar of people that were going to necessarily put effort into showing care or interest or something like that, And so when you change things up and the calculus of your environment changes, it goes both ways. There's people who you would have thought, well, that could be a friend, but then it turns out they're really just an acquaintance and they're going to go away. And then there's other people who you didn't see them as a friend, but then maybe they wind up proving that they are a friend because their character also shines through in moments of adversity or change. So that's been about the size of it. As I make this video, I'm gonna go volunteer later on in the evening for something we call Symphony Under the Stars. And general idea is at the city park, there's once a year a concert there, and people will sit around in the park and listen to the music. But during that time, they also bring cans of food, which they donate to the local food bank. So what we will be doing is showing up there and volunteering our time to go walk around and pick up food cans wherever they may be, so that they can be all compiled together as a donation for the local food bank. So I'll be doing that for probably a couple hours out of my Saturday evening. In any case, life is good, and I have been thinking about how interesting it is that even if you aren't going to work every day, life can be filled with busyness, things that you have to do. And that's not bad. It's just, I never really feel like I'm bored. I never feel like I don't have something that I would like to do. Might be catching up on some video game, or it might be Might be talking on the phone to somebody I haven't talked to for a while. Or it could be going to pay someone a visit that I haven't visited for a while. I think on Sunday afternoon I will go pay a visit to my friend Cliff, and he was a manager at the local Walmart store. He was the first person I met in Montana when I came out to the state for the first time. It was, you know, a new experience, and he was there. And he's just, you know, now he's just a retired guy living in a cabin out in the woods. And I found it's hard to carve out the time to want to go hang out with him and his wife, just because I know, like, if I show up at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we're going to just be talking and BSing, and the evening is going to go by, and next thing you know, it's going to be 10 o'clock at night, and he's going to be trying to convince me to spend the night there because, you know, because he's got an extra room or whatever, right? You know, like, that's just how it is. So I always know if I'm going to go hang out with him, it's probably going to be, you know, an all day or an all evening thing. There is no going to visit him and then getting out after an hour, which is not bad at all. It's just a thing. So, so there's that. But I do want to spend a little bit of time with him and make sure that I am on good terms and stuff with that that guy before I make my way out of time in out of town in a couple of weeks. It is interesting how time goes by so quick, and having a couple of weeks to work on things and mostly to just spend time for myself doing whatever it is that I would like to do. I've also been thinking about how it's so easy to, you know, get out of the getting up and going to work routine and, you know, then sleep in really late or stay up really late or something like that. So I have been thinking I do want to, you know, maybe challenge myself a little bit to have a disciplined routine through all of this, just because, you know, that way I can, you know, get up early in the morning and feel like I have a whole day ahead of me versus staying up. And next thing you know, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm going to bed, and I think to myself, oh, I guess maybe I'll just sleep a little bit and get up, you know, early still. But then it never works out that way. You wind up, if you don't have to go do something, you wind up just sleeping in as 10 or 11 or 12, and you're like, my goodness, I slept through the whole morning and now I don't feel like maybe my day is quite as productive. I don't think that it's too good of a thing to be extremely obsessed though with like efficiency things. Like if you say, well, I should get up early, because getting up early is a thing that successful people do, and then you're always, you know, frustrated because you think to yourself you're not efficient enough or something like that if you don't do it. I don't believe in that, because I think you should just enjoy your life. And, you know, some of us just love being up in the middle of the night too, right? Like I often feel like I'm most alive at, you know, midnight. You know, I'm the sort of person, I like to, you know, make another cup of coffee and then go outside and hang around under the stars in the middle of the night. It just feels cool, you know. So if you do enjoy, you know, staying up late and sleeping in, I don't know that that's necessarily going to be a problem. It's really just a matter of trying to be as mindful as possible to say, you know, this is what I'm doing right now, versus allowing yourself to go into autopilot mode where you're just kind of wasting time, right? Like wasting time, not in the sense that you're doing something unproductive, because that's, like, again, that's fine if you just enjoy doing something that's relaxing or casual. But wasting time in the sense that it's not really something you would view as a concerted activity. You didn't plan to do it. You didn't say, this is what I'm going to do next, and then you proceed to do it. You just kind of sat there scrolling your phone or whatever it might be. Those are the kinds of things that I definitely want to be conscious about and try to make sure I'm not doing that, because there's a lot of things to do in life, and maybe for me being, middle-aged, like I don't feel old and I don't feel young, I guess, right? Like I feel like, it's just kind of the middle, right? And I realize that there's probably not very many things or anything necessarily that I can't do with my life. Like I have time in my life to do whatever I want to do. But I also understand that I'm in a place in my life where, there's a lot of things where you don't want to wait another decade to begin, right? So the time for doing things you want to do is now. And it definitely hits home when I think about people who say, well, I'm gonna work my whole life and then I'll have time for hobbies when I retire. Like when I'm 65, then I'll, tinker around with all of that stuff that I always wanted to do. Like, well, okay. That's not a good call though. I mean, imagine if I said I'll get into computer games when I turn 65, Okay. I don't know. Totally possible. Probable actually. I'll probably still be an avid player of games when I'm 65. But it would be pretty silly for me to say I love gaming and I think I'll wait another 3 decades to think about actually spending some time to enjoy the stuff that interests me today. So that's also another thing that I'll definitely be keeping in mind, because I do want a job that I love. I want to do work that I enjoy. I want to, I'm not a clock watcher. I'm not the kind of person who is going to be like, well, it's 5 o'clock. It's time to go home. I'm just not going to, I'm going to completely disconnect. I'm not going to think about work ever outside of this, narrow window. Like I'm not that kind of a person, but I totally believe in work-life balance, that you have to be able to really enjoy your life. You have to spend quality time, with your family if you have family, and with your spouse if you have a spouse. And it's super important to be in a place and working a job where you can have time for hobbies and personal reflection and the people in your life who you love and all of that. There has to be balance there. It can't be a thing where you're always imbalanced, spending all your time on one particular thing. Just like it wouldn't be healthy if the only thing I did was play video games and I didn't go to work ever, and I didn't have any people in my life who I talked to and stuff like that, right? Like that wouldn't be a wise way to live my life. But it's no more wise when people say, well, I'm going to focus on my career. And I'm going to do it so completely and entirely and wholly that I'm not going to focus on any other aspects of my life. So finding something where I can have those boundaries and have that balance while also having, a job that I really do enjoy and love. And, that's the goal, because I love that quote. If you do the things that you love, you will never work again in your life. Warren Buffett says that it all comes down to one word success in life does, and that word is love. Do the things that you love. Spend time with people that you love. Invest in things that you love. And if you let love be the guiding force in your life in all of its different forms, then you will have, whether long or short, no matter where you find yourself, a wonderful life. As always, good luck on your adventure. Till next time, thanks so much for watching.